Hi, I decided to do an easy St. Patrick's Day eye tutorial, eye makeup look. So if you are interested, come follow along. Getting started, I have on my face except for my brows and my foundation. It's the concealer I love to use. I don't have to go and buy it by any means, but it's just the one that is my tried and true because I feel like it doesn't crease up terribly. It does a little bit, but honestly most concealers do a little bit, and then it's really easy to tap out. And this is a really good one if you prefer not to set with powder. Some people always set with powder, and that's totally fine. But if you're someone that's like, I don't want another step, or I feel like powder looks cakey or dry, this is the one that I feel like is the best for that. So Beauty Blender, and then sometimes I put a little bit like with what's ever on the sponge up in between my brows just to brighten up that area. Okay, something I forgot to mention too, once I've got the under eye all kind of finished off the way I like, then I'll go onto just the inner part of the top of the lid and make sure it's like really blended onto the lid a little bit so there's not like a line. Okay, the next step, I'm going to do my Fenty liner. This is actually drying out a lot, but this is one of my all-time favorites. I think the biggest thing when finding a liquid liner is just getting to know the one you have or the one you like really, really well inside and out, the shape, the exact shape of it, the sort of flexibility of it, if it's a bristle or a felt tip. I actually use both, and I can do a more in-depth video on that later, but this is what I'm gonna call like a kitten wing, or like a fake wing almost. Like I'm not gonna do a real wing eyeliner. I'm just literally gonna take, and it's obviously hard to do while I'm holding the phone, but I'm gonna just take it and I'm literally just gonna like take only, you can see only the very, very, very tip, not the whole tip, but like just the very tip is stamping onto this outer corner. I don't know if you can even see that, but it's like the tiniest little triangle is what I'm trying to get imprinted on there. And sometimes I do like doing it with a slightly dried out one because it's not too inky or runny. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to just connect it just to this part of my lash line. I'm not going to do full liner all the way around. Okay, so I went in so that I could get that a little bit in there better, but as you can see, I have no liner on my lash line. It's just into this little corner, and it's not really super precise or perfect. Okay, I'm taking a sparkly black eyeshadow from this really old Violet Voss palette. I would normally prefer a matte, so if you have a matte, use it. Sometimes they're surprisingly hard to find black. I don't know why. Obviously I have it, but it's in my kit and I don't want to go digging it out right now. So I'm just using the sparkly one, and then I'll go in with that sort of dark forest green, which I feel like is a color more people have than these super bright neons. Also have this Huda Emerald palette. Some people might have it, but again, it's a pretty bright palette. I feel like most people wouldn't. However, I think a lot of people are going to have this sort of dustier, darker green that's in that corner down there. It looks like, on camera, it kind of looks brown, but it's like a really dark foresty olivey green. I'll do the black and I'll do a little of that, and I'll do the pop of the bright on my underwater line. I always feel like that's a fun way to add color without being, it's like understated. So I dipped in my angled brush here. If you have like an eyeliner brush like this, use it, or eyebrow brush. If not, a small brush will work, but you might not get as sharp of a line. But I'm gonna basically dot it on my lash line as if I had done that liner all the way across. Because this is a more angled one, I'm gonna flick slightly out with it. And as you can see, because I used like a slightly faded, like more dried out liner, it looks the same. It doesn't even, sometimes you would be able to tell like the inkiness and then it would fade out. That still looks really good. It'll look nice if you do it that way. But this one like looks like the exact same material. I'm actually going to blend that a little bit. I didn't want that big of a wing. but I'll come back on after I work on it. Okay, so as you can see, I definitely made it more of a liner. I added a little bit, and now it's not even on both sides. I just like quickly went in and like extended those wings. So now I'm gonna blend those tips out so that they're not quite so long. And with blending them out, I'm going to use still a super small brush. So if you have a brush like this, you could have done all of the steps with this brush. So it's still a super small one, but it's a clean brush. So I'm just blending it. I'm not adding any product to it at all. This can be a really pretty look, by the way, if you leave it sharp, but that's just not what I'm going for with this look. I'm going for a little bit slightly more smoky look. So that's why I don't want it to be that way. I feel like it's easy. I'm gonna take a Q-tip and I'm literally just gonna cut that again so that it looks a little bit cleaner again, but it'll look more put together than it did before when it wasn't matching on both sides, if that makes sense. Always have my Q-tips when I'm doing makeup. If I'm doing myself or someone else, I use tons of Q-tips. I would never lick it, obviously, if I'm doing someone else's makeup, but when I'm doing my own, I just find it like makes it easier. So I'll just literally clean it up a little bit, kind of getting that angle back and that like sharpness back. As you can see, it took off some of the concealer, so you could do the concealer out. I like to do it before and then like touch it back up, but you could do it after. Okay, so as you can see, I have completely washed out that like long wing that I had created out of the eyeshadow, and now it's back to just, you can barely even tell, you can't see where it starts and stops where that original liner kitten wing is, but then it like just fades out really, really, really softly. Okay, so next, like I said before, I'm going to use this darker shade here, this like kind of almost brown, but if you have like a greenish hue brown that you can use, where this will come in handy. So I dipped into it first with that same brush I was using before. Probably am going to move to the slightly bigger brush after this, but I'm just going to go in again that same location, but bringing it all the way into the inner lash line where I'm just stamping it on the lash line. And then we'll bring it out over the black and we'll kind of blend it together. Okay, so I did the tight line of the army green shadow on the inner. I've got my same color, that same army green color that I was doing. And I'm gonna just start to blend it into the crease ever so slightly. Again, really slightly, because I want this to be a very clean look. I don't want it to be a super overdone shadow up to the eyebrow look. That has its place, but that's not the look I'm going for today. Okay, so rough application. I just kept that super tightly on that outer like quarter of the eye. So inner corner, this first quarter, or I guess second quarter, and then like third quarter, and then the outer quarter. So if you think of it in those sections, right, the middle and then that outer quarter, we want it to really just stay there. And then I'm going to take my blending brush and blend it so that it's a softer application and you don't see like where I stamped it as much. Okay, so here's my blending brush. Any fluffy brush will work, and it's clean. Again, it's really important to make sure you have a clean brush that you're working with. And then I don't want to blend it out too much to where I no longer have that placement. I'm really just touching it and like wiggling. So it's like touch, wiggle, touch, wiggle, touch, wiggle. And then I'm gonna not mess with it too much after that. Yeah, and then I'm gonna go in with like a neutral, really light brown or almost like a peach. Okay, the color I'm using is this. It's super hard to tell. This color. It looks like a really dark brown. I would actually recommend going with something a little lighter than that, but it's just what I had on hand. And I'm going to do super, super light amount. I already tapped this and like slightly wiped it on a paper towel. And I'm going to go into that area between that outer quarter that I put the green in and the middle. So I'm not going straight onto the middle because it's too close to the inner corner. I'm going like right here. And I'm just blending again in that same kind of zone. And this is a pretty neutral look. Honestly, this would be totally wearable for any day. Totally doesn't have to be St. Patrick's Day. But I'm just going to do the bright green in the inner corner and on the bottom, and that'll kind of make it more of like a holiday look. But you could do like just a, you know, an inner corner highlight, and then this would be an everyday look. So in my palette that I have this really, really bright in this corner where my pinky is. It's really bright, sort of a transitional looking lime green, and I love it for St. Patrick's Day or other like Halloween or like holiday makeup. Really unique color. It's probably not something that everyone out there has unless you have this palette, but that is my favorite inner corner highlight, one of my all-time favorites. And usually with inner corner highlights, that is something I apply with my finger. So you can do that with your finger. If you don't feel comfortable doing it with your finger, you can still totally do it with a small brush. For a small brush for an inner corner highlight, I recommend something a little bit more on the flat side. So not as small as what we used before, but something like this that's like, you can tell it's got that round flat shape. I like to use that because I feel like it won't, well, it's not fluffy, but it also won't deposit it too small the way that the liner is meant to be, like just really small. Yeah, so you can see it's bright. I try not to blend this much. I actually try to like just kind of do a one and done and not mess with it too much because you want it to pack a punch and be bright. You don't want it to be like blended and like sheer, especially for St. Patrick's Day. So here we're doing just tapping it, and then if you have the like greener greens, whether it's like a little bit more of like a sparkly green or like just a more vibrant green, and you could put them on that inner second quarter. So I left that one empty because for like a more mild look, I like it to look really clean and more empty, but you can put it there if you're gonna go for something bigger. I think I'll add a little something there, but I wanted you guys to see this look first, and then at the end I'll do that. So I'm gonna do that under part, and with the under part I am gonna do like a really vibrant bright green, and that's what's just making it more of a St. Patrick's Day look. So get the brightest green you have, doesn't matter the shade, just as long as you can tell it's green. Sometimes they do pull more blue. It's okay if that happens, if that's what you have, but just something to be aware of. Okay, this is another Violet Voss palette, but it's a super neon bright one. I'm going to go in with this super neon green in the very, very corner. So I'm going to do that on my bottom, just under my bottom lash line, and blend it out slightly. And then towards this outer tail, I'll do a darker green like the other one from my palette that I pointed to before. And for that, I'm using this small brush again. So this is the same brush that I stamped that Forest Army Green in the outer like quarter on. So let me just dig into it a little bit here. I'm getting a decent amount of product on here, and I'm gonna just like go straight for it. So here's that green. So that really makes it like a St. Patrick's-y type of a look here. If you really want to make it fun, if you have white eyeliner, that's always super fun for like holiday looks or Halloween looks. You can really make your look pop with like a white eyeliner. And I'll go all the way out to that outer corner. I don't want to mess too much in the inner corner. I don't want to mess with this bright neon or bright highlight that I have going on. I don't want to muddle them. You never want to muddle your colors too much. So not touching it too much, but I'm just going to like here and then leaving that gap alone. And if you wanted to, you could go back with your concealer after all this is done and like fix it and make it really perfect and do the powder to set, and it'll look really, really clean. I don't know if I'm going to do that today, but I'm going in with this bright all the way across, and then I'm getting that other color, and I'm still going to use the same brush. That other color that's like more of a green, like a dark, like classic green. Not dark, it's vibrant, but it's not neon. And then I'm gonna just touch that outer corner of the bottom. And I'll bring it in a touch, but I'm really not like, the lighting is not great, but I think you can see the color difference there. I'm really not blending them, I'm just touching it. And as you can see, it does look a little more blue than the other one. That has a tendency to happen with greens. But that's okay, because it's just at the bottom there. And then I'm taking that blending brush, and I'm just gonna, so just blending the bottoms. Okay, so this would be the look if you stopped here, obviously not including lashes, not have lashes on. That makes a big difference, by the way. So if you're like, okay, this doesn't even look good, it will with lashes. I don't even have mascara on. And then the other thing is, especially when you're using green, blush. A lot of people are scared of blush. When I discovered blush, I never went back because I was like, oh, it doesn't need to be scary. You don't need to look bizarre. Like it makes the cheekbones of your face like highlighted so that the shape of your face just looks a lot more complemented. And then green and pink, because they're so different, there's so much contrast, it's gonna really pop all these colors a lot. So the blushes I'm gonna use the Rare Beauty color Grace, because it's a fairly bright pinky blush, which is what I want. But then I like to use like a slightly more dull, like just a more natural like under that, and I'll put them on so you can see them, and then I'll blend them off camera probably. Okay, so you saw how I dotted the Rare Beauty, which is obviously a much brighter pink, and then I like to do this duller color under, just so that it's like with my skin tone, I feel like it doesn't look like as bright if I blend the two together. Bright is fine. I'm not afraid of bright, but I like this sort of natural way that it blends into the skin. You could do this just with contour and not a second color of blush, but I don't really do contour or bronzer. That's fine. But when I'm like, honestly, I just don't do bronzer and contour on a daily basis. I'd have to be like going out for that, like to a wedding, or if I know pictures are going to be taken, then I will. But this is just for fun, easy and fun. I almost forgot to mention, I almost exclusively use cream blushes, and the Rare Beauty is a super pigmented one. That's why I only did 2 dots. I would recommend starting with 1 dot if you've never used it. Get your hands on some. Start with 1 dot. I made the mistake the first time I used it, I think a lot of people did, where I like just took it and like went straight on, you know, and like that was a no-go. Like, do not do that with the Rare Beauty blush. She powerful. But yeah, and then I like to use, this is my favorite brush for my cream and liquid blushes. It's actually a foundation brush, but it's like a half angled, half flat, half fluffy one. And then I just kind of stipple over the blush, and then when it comes to the bottom, I kind of brush upwards so that it's never dragging my face down. And then I'll just slightly bring it in, but I'll never apply blush straight onto like the apples of the cheeks, like that old method that we all thought was the right way to do it. And it's funny because, again, with the colors and the camera and stuff, you can definitely see that color difference popping more with the green now that the pink is there. And then when I zoom out more, you'll see like the shape of my face just looks a lot better when I have the blush on. Okay, so the blush is like all blended. I still haven't done mascara, so I'll throw some mascara on. But this is the look. If you were going to leave it like this on the top and you're not going to put like a shiny or a brighter green on the top where I was saying to do, another thing you could put there is just a really light, like almost like an under the eyebrow highlight color, or like a really light almost skin color, but not concealer. Get messy, and if you're trying to do a cut crease, that's like a whole different look. So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about like a really light shade, kind of a cream color. I'll just go ahead and do it, but I'm going to go in with the bright color over later for the other like look. Okay, and the color I'm going to use, again, you don't have to have all these different palettes. This is just work with what you have. But I'm going to use that upper corner color, which is called Peach Cream from the White Peach palette, but it doesn't matter. It's like, it's almost white, but it's not like a bright white. A lot of times white will look gray on the skin, but anything like this, or even like a light shimmer, it'll really tie it together and just make it look more clean. And this is also good if you do have like a white or a light cream like this under the bright green, because it'll give you a base to make it even more bright. So it's not very blended right now, but it doesn't really matter to me because I'm going to throw on that bright color on top. But yeah, so you can do that. That makes the whole thing look a lot cleaner. Again, if you're just using this not as a St. Patrick's Day look, but as an everyday look, this is what I would do on top. And then I would just like do brown on the underneath part, or not even do an underneath part, just leave it alone if you're trying to be fast. I'm going to go in with my blending brush, clean it off because I used it on that super bright under part, and I'm just gonna blend those middle colors together so it doesn't look like a harsh line. Okay, so now I've kind of married it all together. So this would be the look, like the more basic look. Let me throw on mascara. Okay, so this is with me touching up just a couple things. So obviously the mascara, I touched up that kitten wing exactly in the same way that I did the very first step. Literally just stamped it. You don't have to like redo a whole wing procedure, but I just stamped it because I realized that I had, it was so faint and faded, you couldn't really see it anymore. So I just stamped that same corner the exact same way I did in the first step. Which you might not need to do if yours stays a little bit better than mine, but like I said, mine was running out and it was drying out a lot, so it was, because mine's super old. But yeah, so I did that. Another thing you could do, you could take a waterline pencil, so whether you want to do like a light color, like a gold, this is like meant for the waterline. It's super light, it's almost white. I guess I'll do it just to show you guys, but I don't normally do this, but some people do, especially for like bridal makeup, and like you want to literally put it on the waterline. Again, I don't normally do this because I feel like it's an extra step that I don't like to do it every day. If I was doing something fancy, I might do it. It like opens, you can see this eye like looks more open, more put together and everything. But I don't like to do it every day. A lot of people don't like to touch their waterline, and it's like makes you tear up, and that's just going to create more problems. So if this is too much for you, don't do it. Just skip it. It's fine. It doesn't have to be an everyday thing. Obviously, I have to now that I started, but... And then if you don't feel comfortable with lashes, or you don't have any, you don't own any, this is good. I would stop here. I think with the mascara, it ties it together. You've got that pop of the bright color at the bottom, the inner corner. That's good enough. Now, if you're going to do like bright green on top, then I would say the lashes, you kind of want them for that. And I'm going to do this light color. Now this is not the same color as that bottom one. It's a little bit more of a green than a lime yellowy goldy shift. This one's just more straight green, but it's a very light green. And it's definitely got some gold fleck to it. This is the kind of thing, this foily sparkle, where I definitely would say, do not use a brush. Use your finger. You cannot get this payoff with a brush. You need like something warm to apply. So I'm going to go into that same place where I put the white cream color, and I'm going to just wipe it on there a little bit, and then I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to pat it out to just blend and soften into the look. And then it has a little bit more of the look overall is going to just have a little bit more sparkle and flare, be a little bit more fun. Honestly, it kind of looks silvery, which greens are hard. Sometimes it's just going to happen. They're going to look blue or silver, or they're just going to pull different ways. So if you're really fair skinned and you have a more cool undertone, this might look more green on you than it does on me. And that's good because that's what we're going for. But if you have my skin tone, that's fine too. It still looks good. It still looks fun for the holiday. Trying not to mess with it too much, because the more you mess with it with a high sparkle, foil, glittery, shimmery color like that, the less shimmer you're gonna have, and the more you're gonna just end up with like a muddled look, which you don't want. And it's not gonna be, it won't have that shimmery shininess anymore. It'll mix with the other colors, and you don't want that. Okay, the lashes I'm going to use are the Camille's. They look like this. Cheap lashes are fine. I use cheap lashes and I don't care, but the Huda ones are like really wow factor. So if you have a special event, I think it'd be worth investing in them. I like these ones because they're half, like demi lashes. They're not the full lash, so I find them easier to put on, and the Huda ones are more expensive, but you can reuse them so many times. Cheap ones, you can still reuse them. I do, but I mean, they're cheaper, so they're flimsier, and I just feel like the Huda ones really are really good quality. If you want a brand that's worth it, the quality is worth it, I would say Huda's it. I'm not a spokesperson for any brands though, I don't care. But if you use any lash glue, any cheap lash glue is fine, but I do like the Sephora Collection one. It's the cheapest. It's like on par with the cheapest ones, and then price-wise, but it works great. I think it works great. Okay, so I brushed the glue. You can kind of see it. And it's been a few seconds, like probably at least 20-30 seconds. So I'm going to really try to get it at the base of my lashes. I'm not going for the skin here. I'm literally aiming for the base of my lashes. And then I'll like pull my eye a little bit and like just make sure it's patted down. Okay, so when I look at it, I pat it down and make sure it is bonded to the skin a little bit. But that way, aiming for the base of your lashes means you won't get that gap. You know what I'm talking about, the gap. Okay, so I went ahead and decided to touch up with more concealer under the eye. Like I said, I normally don't do that, but I decided I wanted to show you guys kind of the difference it would make. So it looks like a lot brighter, a lot cleaner, and then I just used my finger to like blend it right up to where the inner corner highlight is so that I wasn't messing that up. I think I got a sparkle on my cheek. Hold on. Okay, we're back. Yep, I had a big sparkle on my cheek. Q-tips to the rescue, and then re-blended with this. So I am taking my powder now. I'm taking the Charlotte Tilbury in the shade, I think it's number 1. It's gonna look so light. If you're like not a super fair light person, you're like more tan like me, you're gonna be like, that's way too light. It's actually not. It looks really light, but I mean, obviously if you're darker than me, it might be too light for you, but I find the two, I can't remember what the issue was with it when I tried it, but I was like, I thought it would be my perfect shade, and I was like, oh no, this looked gray. So this one, it's light, but it's like light in a good way. It's brightening. It's just the perfect color. So yeah, so just get that shine down and then like make it nice and soft and smooth. And then this is the finished look. If you go with the super shiny topper and, you know, the bright stuff. If you don't have any green at all, then you can still do a St. Patrick's Day look. You just can do it with a smoky eye with black, but this is what I would do. The pink on the cheeks, just a soft, I just did like a light pink tinted balm. You can see how it turned out. Couple things I forgot to mention. I did not use, like I said, any bronzer or any contour. I would have done this look without any powder. I normally would, but I just decided to show it anyway. But you don't have to use that powder or even a tinted powder. You can use a translucent powder, which is what I use. If I'm going to use powder, I just go with a basic translucent powder like 99% of the time. So my preference would actually be, hang on, I store it in my bottom drawer, so I gotta pull it out. My preference would actually be the Sephora collection because it's one of the cheapest and it's literally the best. Like, it works just as well as Laura Mercier or any of the other ones you've heard of, Huda. There are other ones I like, but the Sephora collection one is cheaper and it's the same thing and it's great. Sometimes it's sold out, so that can be a problem. But I mean, if you buy it once, it lasts a pretty long time because you don't need to use very much. You just, you know, use your, if you don't have a velour puff, you can use your beauty blender, but I wouldn't use a brush. I would like pat it in with something. A lot of people will like brush their powder on lightly because they'll say like, oh, I don't want to look cakey. Honestly, I think brushing it on makes it look more cakey. So either don't do the powder or pat it in and then brush at the end just to like blend it all together, buff it all out. That gets any looseness kind of swept away. But that's what I would do. Powders are meant to be, in my opinion, usually powders are meant to be kind of pressed into the skin so that they hold down whatever the goal was. And yeah, not doing anything crazy for St. Patrick's Day. Just putting on movies for my daughter and making the St. Patrick's foods and trying to catch leprechauns. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.